This episode is sponsored by Plan B Games. Episode 33 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I am super excited to be here today with Jess Cassady, who many people know as Board Game Girl across social media and from her appearances on Heavy Cardboard. How's it going today, Jess?
It's going well. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. What is new in your world? I mean, it was great seeing you at PAX a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, PAX Unplugged was awesome. I love that convention. It's become that convention at the end of the year. There's kind of a wind down and everybody's relaxed and you may actually get to play games, which is just novel at a convention like that.
Right. Yeah, I had a blast too. This time we were experimenting. I ended up putting together a kind of a vlog video / little documentary of some of the cool stuff I saw, and Beth Hiley from BGG was with me. So we were kind of experimenting with that format because, you know, pre-pandemic at a lot of conventions, BGG would have a booth and publishers would come and bring games and, you know, we would host them and talk about the games at a table at our booth. Yep. But we haven't been doing that for a couple years. I don't know if we'll go back to it at some point, but we wanted to just experiment with, you know, being on foot with our cell phones and a couple of, you know, Bluetooth mics and see what we could do. So it was a little like different for me because I'm like trying to think about how am I going to cut this little video together, but I'm also trying to like focus on like cool games I was checking out. It ended up being really fun, but I really enjoyed PAX Unplugged also.
Well, that's where you're from, right?
Yeah, my family's in Philly, so it's like I've been kind of doubling it up as a trip to visit them as well.
Yeah, that makes it easy. It's easy for me because being up in Boston, I can just take the train down. It's 6 hours.
Oh.
It's nice. I can still work. It's very, and you talked about those divided priorities, right? Like you want to have fun. You want to check out the games. You want to see people you haven't seen, but you also want to do some work and like get some stuff out there to folks about what's happening at the convention. And having that 6 hours on the way down to kind of prep, and then even on the way back to kind of maybe go through and grab photos and, you know, post on social media or what have you. It's really nice. I like it a lot.
Process all that.
Yeah.
That's really cool that you took the train.
Yeah.
I love long train rides like that.
Oh, you have no idea. So BGG Con is a great one from here. You can take a train from Boston all the way directly to the convention center in Texas.
Really?
Yes. And when we did that with a group of people and it was train con. Like we basically played train games on a train all the way to BGG Con. It was absolutely fantastic. But I would recommend if you ever do a train convention like that, do get the sleeper bunk. We decided to be cheap and not do that because we're like, we're going to be playing games. It's fine. We can just fall asleep in the seat. No, that was not fun.
No.
Sleeper car. But.
And how long was that journey? Do you remember?
It's just overnight, I believe. I think it was like one day overnight, and then we got there late the next day. There could have been 2 overnights if I'm misremembering. It was 2018 that we did that, and it was lovely. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. It did stop with the pandemic, but maybe like the amazing Board Game Geek booth that used to be at conventions, maybe it'll come back post pandemic because that was great. I loved when BGG did that. That was a wonderful thing.
Cool. Well, I will speak to the powers that be. Awesome. Well, since this is the last BGG podcast episode of 2023, today we're going to discuss some of our favorite games that we played this year. We're mostly going to focus on games that came out in 2023, But we thought it'd be fun to kind of just mention a few games that were released prior to 2023 that we played for the first time this year too. I know it's always hard kind of coming up with like top 10 lists, top 5 lists for anything.
Yeah.
And even just kind of recalling like what all did we play this year, you know, especially you have this like flood of games that come out at Essen and, you know, some games, Gen Con, Essen, PAX and everything. And that's like towards the tail end of the year. But a lot of great games also come out earlier in the year. So it's like you're trying to recall like what new games did I play earlier this year too.
Right?
Yeah. But anyway, before we start talking about our favorite games of 2023, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Jess. So let's jump into fresh plays.
Well, you hit me at a good time because my last game that I actually played took all of a game day, and I played Sidereal Confluence.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a big one. I love this game. I've played it several times now. Always at 6 players. This last time at 7 players.
Wow.
Yeah. I had so much fun with this. So the subtitle is Trading and Negotiation in the Elysian Quadrant, right? Because we're different beings and there's all these different beings that you can choose from. And then you have asymmetrical powers, like certain things that you're doing. I was the green player, which is like these plants. So I'm very plant-based and
Nice.
I like to like exploit for resources like most beings do when they're out in, you know, the Elysian Quadrant, and then go and I have to extend my powers and kind of protect myself. But I'm really good at doing planty things. So I go and get different planets and then I go get these resources. The entire time though, everybody's a different being that's doing this. And it's all about, wait for it, it's directly in the name, trading and negotiation, because everybody's going to be getting different resources and you may need some of those resources, but you're not able to create them. And you need them to go and advance technologies. But these technologies benefit everybody. So you want these technologies to be developed, not just by you, but by everybody in the game. You just don't want them to do so well that they ultimately win the game. So I love that there's this cooperative element. And I'll tell you, I normally don't like negotiation games because usually I'm just too quiet. I'm not bold enough to be like, hey, I need that resource. Take these 2 chips for it. Like I'm just quieter, and you wouldn't think because like I'm bold in life and on social media, but not so much in a game.
Okay, gotcha.
This is a good counteraction to that because everybody does want everyone to do marginally well, just not as good as they do, right? So you're looking to create those best deals. And my favorite thing is that the negotiations are binding. When I first played it and they said they were binding, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I like this. No, it's great. You have to go and repay the person. You make a deal. It can even be repaid, and it usually is, in a future round. But if you fail to make good, then the person you made the deal with, you have to make them happy. So you have to renegotiate until they're happy.
Ooh.
Or you get severely penalized. So you need to like be like, okay, we got to figure this out. And they could be coming at you like, well, I'm going to take one of your planets. You're going to trade a planet then. And you're like, no, I need my planet. Like, so it's, and again, you don't want to hurt each other too much because then if you take my planet and now I can't do any technologies, you also aren't going to get those technologies advanced on your tableau. So it's a crazy, awesome game. I could see it being player dependent a little bit in that if people don't understand being semi-cooperative until you know, kind of go for that, you know, gut punch, like that beginning part. If you don't understand doing that, then it could be not a great experience. But every time I've played it, it's been fantastic. And weird little things happen where you're like, I was making those things for you and you were able to give me this. And then we did the thing. And it's a good game.
I have only played Sidereal Confluence once, and I've only played with 5 players too, like, which I think is kind of probably the bare minimum that most people would recommend playing with.
Yeah.
But it was so good, even at 5 players, and I have always like wanted to revisit it. It's been on my shelf, and I don't know why I haven't gotten it to the table. But I'm glad you brought it up because now it's reminding me I need to play this again. I just remember loving it. Like, I don't remember exactly how everything works. I do like that, all that like simultaneous kind of trading and negotiation that's going on. So yeah, I have to get back to this one.
You really, really, really do. And the thing is, I feel like this is what happens when a designer decides to make a game based on a passion project. Or I should say, this is what can happen. So
Gotcha.
Cassady Dykeman, he's the designer of this game. And he never meant for this to actually become a published game. He designed this game as this huge game for him and his game group to play. And if you can imagine, it was way bigger when he first designed it, like a 16-hour game. Like, this was a whole weekender. They went on a getaway and played this over days type game. But they had so much fun that they begged him. They're like, you've got to pare it down and get this published. It's that good. It is such a great experience. Such a unique combination of these mechanisms, and you're just invested. It's great.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And then it was originally released in 2017. And then WizKids remastered it, and it came out in 2020. So now it's in a new box, new art, but same gameplay. So
yeah,
but it does take a whole game day.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you remember how many hours it was for you guys at 7?
I think it was around 5. It was a game day. That's what I know, is we started at noon, and by the time we ended, people were ready to get dinner. Like, so it was absolutely a full game day. And it can take, we actually set a timer for the negotiations, not really to be super strict and like, that's it, we're done. More to just watch our time and make sure we weren't getting carried away with how long that phase took. Honestly, usually after the first couple rounds, we usually were done before the timer and kind of got in a flow of it. So, and the structure of it's great. It's really, the phases are all planned right out. You know what's coming. Yeah, it's
cool.
Big, but they simplified it as much as you can simplify a big game like this.
Yeah, and I remember my 5-player game, we played on a weeknight. So it was, it couldn't have been more than like 3.5 hours, I would imagine. But I just remember we all loved it.
It flies by.
Yeah. I got to play this one again.
Yep.
Cool. That is Sidereal Confluence.
So what about you?
Oh, so I was thinking about this for a while, like which 2 games I wanted to talk about. And I'm actually going to make my first game a twofer. I'm cheating a little bit just because I had to talk about some of the card games I got to play with my family when I was back east. Mm-hmm. One being a game called Dealt, which was first released as Krass Kariert, which is that's the version that I have, but it got an English release called Dealt. It's a 2018 game designed by Katja Stremmel, and it's from Amigo. Plays with 3 to 5 players. And this is actually back in 2019. This was, I think, the first game I've ever imported. Like, I bought it on the German Amazon.
Oh, I love
like
it.
Amazon.de, and it was exciting. Couldn't wait to get this. But this game kind of like set me off into like being like, oh my gosh, I want to find every awesome like trick taking or climbing shedding game there is. And that was my first burst of excitement with those type of games. It came from this, and I played it so much. And I taught it to my mom years ago, gave her my copy, bought myself another copy, which I think I imported also. But then Scout came out, and Scout kind of killed it for me. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't think I need to play Krass Kariert or Dealt again because I like Scout. It's doing some of the same things, but in a more interesting way. So time has passed. I played a lot of Scout. I played a lot of all sorts of trick taking and climbing shedding games. Right. And I'm at my mom's, and we're like, oh, let's play this. She used to call it checkered combos. So we're like, let's play that. Let's break that all out. We all know how to play it. Hadn't played for a while. And I fell right back in love with it. And I started to kind of appreciate the differences between it and Scout, because in my mind, it was like, oh, they're very similar and Scout did it better. But they're different. They have like a different feel to them. Really the main thing they have in common is that you're playing combos to beat and you can't rearrange the cards in your hand. But Krass Kariert, or I should call it Dealt, because that's what people are going to look for if you're going to try to get this game. Dealt, when you get your hand of cards, you also get these 2 reserve cards that are face up in front of you. So everybody gets dealt 2 extra cards that everyone can see. And unlike Scout, if people are familiar with Scout, you don't keep kind of going around the table till somebody can't beat the combo. Instead, you just go one time around the table and you either beat the combo or you pass and you have to pick up a card from your reserve. You know, and you can choose to strategically do that because you can put that card anywhere you want in your hand. Because remember, I didn't say, I said you can't rearrange the cards in your hand, but you also have to only play cards that are adjacent to each other from your hand.
Oh.
So picking up, sometimes you want to pick up your reserve card even though you don't have to. But of course, if you don't have a combo that can beat the one that the previous player played, then you have to put a card in your hand. And at a point where you need to pass, where you're forced to pass, and you do not have a reserve card to pick up, you bust. And you have to lose one of your life tokens. So this is a game where there's not one winner, but instead there's one loser, because at any point where you have to give up a life token and you don't have any more, you lose the game and everybody else kind of won.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's first to lose. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a really fun game. And it's like, again, it has some overlap with Scout. And I know some people who like prefer this, who've played both, but prefer this one over Scout. So I would just say anybody who likes Scout and you haven't heard of Dealt or tried it, give it a try. It's really, really, really solid. And then, have you played Scout before, Jess?
Yes.
Okay. Are you into trick? Where are you on the trick-taking game scene?
Oh, I love trick-taking games. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I think I've actually played Krass Kariert as well, too. Probably at like a New Year's Eve party over at my friend Joe's, because he always has these imported little card games and loves trick takers.
Cool,
so,
you probably played it.
Yeah, I get a lot of trick takers to the table. It's hard to remember. I love hearing the story because it's hard to remember which ones hit, because we'll sit down and play 4 or 5 of them. And I'm like, oh, I love that one. And then I'm trying to explain to, like which one it is and which one, can you tell me the name of that? I'm like, the one with the cows. And this one reminded me because you said checkers. And I was like, oh, yeah, the checkered back.
On the back of the card. Yeah. Exactly. So that's Dealt. And the other game I just wanted to briefly throw into, just because we had such a fun time with it, is a game called Spicy. And this is a 2020 release designed by Gyori Zoltan Gaber. And it's published by Heidelberg Games. And I received a review copy of this when I met with CGE at PAX Unplugged, because CGE is now distributing Heidelberg Games. And there's a new version of Spicy coming out. I think it was called like Sweet and Spicy. But anyway, I had never played this before. It's a 2 to 6 player game. It's a bluffing game.
Ooh.
So you have like 3 suits of these like kind of pepper cards, and the cards are numbered 1 through 10. Each suit, there are 3 cards of each number. So there are 3 1s, 3 2s, 3 3s for each of the 3 colors. And you're going to shuffle this deck, and everybody's going to get a hand of cards. And then what happens is you will be playing cards face down into the center of the table, face down. And you have to, so let's say I have to lead with a 1, 2, or 3, but I declare what my card is. So I could say this is a 2 red. And then when it comes to you, Jess, you can pass, I think, and draw a card, or you can put another card that's higher in ascending order. So you could say this is a 5 red on top. And then the next person could go, and it goes up to 10. And once somebody plays the 10, then you can keep looping around, but you have to start with the 1, 2, or 3 again. So you're just like kind of like playing cards, but you have to match what was previously played. But the thing is, this is a bluffing game, and we're playing cards face down. So you could lie and say, yeah, this is a red 5. And it could be a blue 5, or it could be a yellow 2. It just could be wrong, could be right. So anyone at the table, after you play a card, can challenge you and say, I don't know, maybe because of the cards that have been played in previous rounds, you're like, I don't think there is another 5 red card. I think Jess is lying.
Right.
But when you call someone out, you have to say whether the number is wrong or the color. I mean, it could be both, but you have to call what it is. Yeah. Okay. So let's say you did play a blue 5 and I'm like, no, Jess didn't play a 5, and we flip it over and it's a 5. I lose that challenge. So I have to draw more cards, and you're trying to get rid of your cards.
Right.
Meanwhile, you get to score the cards. You get to take the cards that were in the pile, and you'll score them later when we score. It's 1 point per card.
Okay.
So there's a whole thing of like, are they telling the truth? Are they lying? And it was hilarious because my mom was very obvious when she didn't have a card. She's like putting it in slowly to the table. It's like stuttering a little, like that's a green 5, or
Yeah.
And we're just like, no, it's not. And then you
need to know which one it is.
But you need to know which one is off. Exactly.
So that helps those people that are having trouble with lying, because you still have to know what they're lying about. And they could be tricking you.
Exactly. So that's a great point there, Jess, because what happened was, after we played our first game, she got hip to the fact that we could tell when she was when she was bluffing. So then she started leaning into that.
Right.
And she was fooling my partner, Matt. And I was like, no, I think she's doing this to pretend she's bluffing so that someone challenges and she gets to win the cards. So there's all these like mind games going on where you're trying to, when you are lying, you're trying to make people think you're not lying.
Yes.
And when you're telling the truth, you want people to think you're lying, so they call your bluff and you get to score the cards. So anyway, it's just the more we ended up playing like three games back to back. The more we played, the better it got. The meta at the table, trying to figure out who's pretending, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I love that. So you said bluffing, and I was like, oh, I don't know, because I'm such a bad liar. I'm really not good at it. I think my face is fine, but I do not have a poker face. You can see everything on my face. And so I could lean into it and then be like, okay, well, now I'm going to do that this next time. And I mean, I think there's something like 200 mechanisms now that are used in games that are like listed out.
I believe that
dictionary of mechanisms. And one of my favorites is that theory of mind, where it's like you have to try to predict how the other player is acting and then how you're going to react to that. But then maybe they're acting that way, so you react to it. And
I love mind games like that.
Yep. It's like, so good. Yeah. The psychology of that is fantastic.
Yes. And it's like this game like kind of presented that so much. And the other little spice I'll mention is there are some wild cards in the deck. So there are wild number cards. So it could be a 1 through 10. So if you called somebody's bluff on the color, they would lose. But if you called them on the number, their number is 1 through 10 because it's a wild. But then there's also wild color cards too. So that also like adds some spice, because it's like, oh, I'm going to call this person out. And that happened a couple times where someone called it out and said number, and you flip it over and it's the wild number card, and you're like,
I got you. It is the number, not the color.
Yeah. But anyway, we just had a great time playing those games, Dealt and Spicy. So I just wanted to kind of mention those two. But what else have you been playing?
So I'm going again to the opposite side of the spectrum, to something really, really heavy.
Love it.
These are the last 2 games I actually played. So that's how
the freshest plays. I appreciate that.
Yes. But this was Galactic Cruise, actually at PAX Unplugged. I got to go take a look at that. It's coming up from Kinson Key Games. It's their first game. Designed by a trio of designers. Again, all their first design. TK King, Dennis Northcott, and Colton Thompson. These guys are great, and they're going all in on this game. I mean, Ian O'Toole, graphic design, The campaign's going to have all these content creators covering it. It's not even, so this is not even released yet. It's hitting Kickstarter in March, but this game has been ready for a while. So
wow.
Yeah, it's done. The prototype is how it's going to be. Maybe some tweaks from further play testing, but they'd be minor. Like, you are supervisors at this company called Galactic Cruise. So it's a space travel luxury cruise company, right? Like, you've got to get,
I love it. Yeah.
You got to build your ships. You got to attract people to come ride your ships and make sure that they have what they want is on the ship. So they want to go on this cruise with you. You have to have the technology to do this. And again, it kind of actually goes back to what I was talking about in Sidereal Confluence, where there's this, you're competing because you want to determine who's going to become the CEO out of all these supervisors that you're playing as. But the technology does get shared, right? And you're opening up connections for other players as well as you're developing these things in the game. And so you do want to do things that help other supervisors so that they do things that help you and like things open up. But ultimately, you want to be the CEO of this company. And I just like this unique theme too, because we haven't gone really on a space cruise before, like where we're marketing the cruise and going out into space. And, it checks all the boxes for me. It's a really, really, really fun time.
I actually had the pleasure of playing it at BGG Con. I played a prototype of Galactic Cruise, and nice. Yeah, I'm like, this is going to be a banger. Like, if you did not know this was 3 new designers and you just see the Ian O'Toole artwork and the way the game plays and the weight of it, you'd think this is a Lacerda game.
Yes.
It has that feel to it.
Yeah. And even uses one of the mechanisms that he's known for, right? Like it's worker placement.
Yeah, but
you can't bump yourself. Like, so right. So you can't go in the place you already went, like Gallerist. It's pretty spectacular for a first time to get. I can't wait to see what they do next. Like, if this is your first game, wow.
And I just love, like you were saying, like the theme is so cool because I like that as you're building your space shuttle, you're putting those rooms in.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun thing. So for like a heavy game to have this fun thing, like, oh, I remember I was like, I'm going to put a casino in with my wine tasting room and a movie theater or something like that.
It gives you that fun at the end of like, oh, I really like my spaceship. I would travel on this spaceship. And it seems really, really fun. And I like the game end that they did as well. What did you think of that, with the fact that like you don't exactly know, right? And you could push game end.
It's funny you should ask, because I actually didn't have the greatest first experience with this.
Okay.
Because we had a rough teach.
Okay.
And there was a missed step in this setup that was making the game drag, but we didn't catch it till we were like 2 down. So we ended up having to end early.
Right.
So I don't actually know, outside of that, I could see the potential that this is like going to be an awesome game, even though I had kind of a bumpy experience.
This is really good to address though, because game end is dependent upon the action of the players, right? So they really didn't want it to be heads down solitaire. So of course, there's the developing of those technologies, they said, and opening up of the development on the board. And that is going to be your player interaction right there. You're going to be seeing what people are doing. So maybe you let them do it because you want to do this other thing. And then all of it opens up. So you have that. But then in game end, you don't know at the beginning of the game how long it's going to go. When you're completing the company goals, you get progress cubes. And those impact when the game ends. Like a certain number of progress cubes are placed on the progress track, and that's it.
Yeah.
So you're watching that, but somebody could be ready to do a bunch of goals, and then they're going to
boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
Rush it a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And so ours, the setup error we had was that there weren't enough guests or customers placed. So a lot of the goals and everything were going really, really slow because we weren't able to get the customers. And I forget, but it was something that was kind of like really like slowed down by that. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, they really need to put some kind of way if the players aren't pushing the game, like when you play 18 Chesapeake, how the trains auto export. But, you know, at that point, as I'm thinking that we didn't realize we were playing it wrong.
Right.
Like we didn't set it up right. So I'm like, oh, this is probably not how it's supposed to feel. But that being said, I love games that aren't just a set number of rounds.
Exactly.
Like I like when players are driving the pace and, you know, those kind of endings can happen. You don't know exactly when it's going to happen. I find that exciting. So
yeah,
cool.
it does make it really exciting. I like that aspect of it. So that was definitely a hit for me. I can't wait to play this one more. I can't wait for them to actually make it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. I love that. That cover is so dope too.
The art. I mean, you can tell right away it's Ian O'Toole.
Yep. So that is Galactic Cruise. On a more serious topic, I ended up playing, I guess it was maybe a week ago or so, one of the newest Hollandspiel games, Doubt is Our Product. So my friend Tim thankfully coordinated every November Hollandspiel. They do a Hollandaise kind of sale. And last year I went a little nuts. So this year I was like, oh, I might not get anything. But then Tim was like, hey, do you want to do a group buy with a couple of us? So I was like, okay, I'll get. So I ended up getting the dinosaur gauge game.
Yes.
And when Tim got the delivery and he was coming to bring it over, we were like, hey, you want to just play a couple 2-player games? And he brought over, because he bought Doubt is Our Product. And this is designed by Amabel Holland, just came out like a month ago. And I read, before we were planning to play it, I read Amabel Holland's really like powerful designer diary on this game.
Yeah.
And basically this is a 2-player game where it's an asymmetrical battle against the tobacco industry in the 20th century.
Yes.
And one player plays as the company representing the tobacco industry, and that player is going to be playing an economic deck building game where you're basically trying to get enough profit to win the game. There are a couple, I think there might be another victory condition, but a lot of it is profit driven. Whereas the other player is playing as the movement, and they're playing this like puzzly political tableau building game where like it's just different organizations trying to get together, get organized to advocate for the legislation and regulation. So both players, we ended up playing back-to-back games so we could switch sides.
Okay.
Because we were both, spoiler alert, very fascinated by it. And we were just like, we need to like try it again. And we both wanted to see what the other side felt like. But I started as the movement. And the movement, you can win the game if you score 10 points worth of goals, or if you're able to get the company, your opponent, to lose. And then on your turn, you do one thing. You either play a card from your hand, buy a card, or you pass. And when you pass, you're able to get some influence, which is the main resource that you're using to pay for cards. You can either spend it by you'll get tokens that are actually like influence tokens. But as you build your tableau, you can also flip over cards in your tableau to spend their influence value towards playing cards. So you have some flexibility there, but there are some implications of doing that. When you buy a card, depending on the slot you take it from, it's going to trigger an action that you'll take. And the strength of each action depends on the icons on the cards in your tableau. Also, when you play cards into your tableau, I should mention, on the right and left side of the cards, all of the cards that the movement player has are icons. And if you're able to, when you place that card to the right or left of your tableau, if it matches any of the icons, you're getting some like tokens that are going to help you with other things. So you have this messaging action, which basically impacts the company because you're like sending messages and informing people. And that's going to help you remove doubt or lower doubt and also save victims, which I'll get into when I tell you how the company works. You could also do research to gain more influence. There's agitation, which is going to help you complete those goals that are really important to you. And whenever you're taking an action, the strength of the action depends on the icons on the cards in your tableau. But also, if you have extra tokens, you can kind of spend them to boost it. So there's just this puzzly tableau building game you're doing. And, you start off feeling very constrained for resources. So you're trying to build up an engine, but you also want to work towards completing your goals, because your goals are going to help slow down the company a bit, and they're also going to be how you can win the game. Right. So that's super important. But then on the other hand, you have the company. The company is playing the deck building game, so you have a card market of these different types of cards that you can kind of buy throughout the game. And then you have this board, or it's really just like a canvas map, and it has boxes where you'll be placing victims tokens that represent. So the boxes, the boxes represent children, adults, middle-aged, and elderly people. And beneath that, you have an area where you're able to add doubt to increase the amount of doubt, which is helping you and slowing down the movement. So on the company's turn, you play cards, you buy cards, and then you draw back. And all the cards have this budget value, which you'll use to pay for cards that you want to play, and also to buy cards from the market. And each card is split into a top half and a bottom half. And the cards are very thematic, like television, print media, loopholes, trends, gimmicks. And if you play the top half of the card, you'll pay that cost and you resolve it immediately. And then you just discard the card. Otherwise, if you play the bottom, you can play it into your reserve, which is this area above. And this is one of the ways you're going to be able to shed your cards out of your deck, because the reserve is going to help you until you need to reshuffle, make certain actions more powerful. But when you do your reshuffle, so you're going to draw back at the end of each turn, when you do your reshuffle, that's how you're going to generate profits based on the different victims you've accumulated. And it's something like all of the elderly people give you profits and then they go away. And then I think it was 2/3 of the middle-aged people, and then half of the adults and none of the children, or something like that. But you're generating profits based on the victims that you have. And then there's this procedure where they just kind of slide over. Some go away, some slide over to the next box as people are kind of aging.
Yep.
But each turn you are required to play at least one card and buy at least one card. So you have to kind of manage your hand, because you're spending cards to buy cards and play cards. So you have to, but you're also then trying to chain your actions and everything. And, again, when you do that reshuffle, that's when you're making profit. And if you're able to get to, I think, a 70 profit, you'll win the game on a reshuffle. But yeah, this game was extremely fascinating. It's really interesting how the two sides play together. They're playing very different games. It almost, you could think of as two people playing a solitaire game, but there is some interaction where you're interfering with each other and you're paying attention to what other people are doing. It's very thematic and deep, and it's such a heavy topic. But the way that this game was designed and presented is just so, so well done. And, the fact that it was inspired by Amabel's childhood experiences with her parents.
Right.
Yeah, it's really moving. And I know that reading that designer diary and then playing this game definitely had an impact on how I felt playing it. But
for sure.
I think she nailed it in terms of the message that she wanted to present with this game based on that designer diary.
Right. I mean, it's the feeling of that, right?
Yes,
the fact that
struggle is,
absolutely.
Yeah, and gameplay wise, there's a decent amount of variability, because you play with different sets of cards, and the goal cards that the movement has they're in this reverse pyramid, so you only have access to the first two. Then once you score one, then you have access to another one, and you're kind of opening up the more goals you score. But there's going to be variability there. It takes about 90 minutes to play. You definitely feel the struggle as the movement. We both lost as the movement.
Right.
Which makes me want to like crack that puzzle. Because I think like we both didn't like push as hard as we needed to with our goals. But then it's like you have to get resources. You have to do so much. So I'm definitely excited to like revisit this and see if we can, either of us can get to a point where we can win with the movement. But so unique, so well done, and just like really, really powerful theme. And it's heavy. It's a heavy topic, you know?
Now, you talked about Amabel's childhood. Didn't her father die of lung cancer?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I would encourage people, if any of this sounds interesting, to pull up that designer diary on BGG and read that story. But yes, her father died at a young age from lung cancer. And her mother, instead of blaming like cigarettes, like basically said it's the kid's fault kind of thing. And it's bad. It was really bad. But hopefully like creating this game was therapeutic in a sense.
Right.
You know?
You would hope so. I mean, interestingly, so my father died of originally lung cancer, but metastasized brain cancer, bone cancer, liver, everywhere. And because of smoking since he was 12, because that was a thing back then. And it's really interesting, but like the emotion that it provides, I can imagine playing that game and just feeling like, okay, so they got to him when he was a kid, right? And then he moved up this structure.
Yeah. And that's all captured in the game.
Yeah.
Like and I love that she chose to call them victims.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing, to impart that feeling of what truly was happening, and that they did without really a thought. Now, I know, back then there was some doubt, right? Like that's kind of the name of the game of like, is this really the cause of these cancers? Is it the cigarettes? And, that worked on some people. And these are those experiences where you're playing the game and learning something at the same time, or feeling something about the real world. And there was just a piece in the New Yorker, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet, that Amabel Holland was featured in. And
no, I don't think I saw that.
It's an amazing art. It just came out
cool.
maybe today, but it basically was interviewing Amabel, but also Jeff Engelstein, Dan Thoreau was in there, a number of people about the board game hobby. Really well written. And Amabel was in there and mentioned this topic. And it was another author that actually mentioned that it's limiting to say that games should just be fun, right? That's as limiting as saying that all movies should be sad, was the quote, right? No, there's a breadth of human emotion that we can feel when we're enjoying a hobby, and it doesn't always have to just be fun, right? So there are games that are going to bring you into an experience, and there are games that are just going to feel like you're balancing your checkbook, and there are games that are going to evoke lying and bluffing, and then there are ones that are going to give you maybe those sad realizations or correlations to how the world works.
Yeah, and I appreciate it all. But yeah, this is a really, really unique one, and just so well done. Like I just remember like every card I'm playing, I'm just like, wow. Like thematic across the board, like the mechanisms, it's all like really, really, really well done.
And I mean, that's another passion project, right? So like Sidereal Confluence was designed just to have like a long gameplay, fun time with friends.
Right.
And then you have this game that's designed to give you that thematic experience and maybe make you consider aspects of things that are going on in the world. And it's all great.
Yeah. So that is Doubt is Our Product. And now a word from our sponsor. Toes in the sand, flag in view. I'm ready to participate in the greatest Capture the Flag tournament in a box with Challengers Beach Cup. This standalone and mixable game is the sequel to the 2023 Kenner Spiel winner, Challengers. I don't know about you all, but I'm so eager to get this awesome game to the table over the holidays with family and friends. This game is easy to understand and can be played with up to 8 players in less than an hour. For even more fun, if you are the first challengers, you can use both games and play an epic tournament between 9 and 16 players. Simply amazing! This game is bliss with a mix of deck building and auto battlers. Compete with fun new teams like Fairy Tale characters and the Toy Store team. Will the ice cream truck help you claim victory? Or will it be the super cute hamster in a ball? So many possibilities. On your mark, get set, go to your friendly local game shop to get your copy of Challenger's Beach Cup. Who's up for the challenge? All right, let's move on to our favorite games of 2023. And I will say, as of now, we are recording this on December 21st, 2023. As of now, this is what we're what we're feeling. And I say that because obviously, like, it's not like all of these games we've had the opportunity to play a million times. And there are also just so many awesome games that come out every year. So it's always tough to kind of make any kind of list. But let's start with the pre-2023 games, the new to me category. Jess, what were some games that you played for the first time this year that didn't come out in 2023 that you really enjoyed?
So this one is super hard for me because I'm always playing prototypes or new stuff that just came out in order to cover it and talk to people about these games. And then if I get the opportunity, I'm going to go to like my treasured favorites, so the older games are usually games that I love that I've already played a ton that I'm dying to get back to the table. But I do tend to end up finding new to me kind of gems at conventions like HeavyCon and the Gathering of Friends. Like those are gaming conventions for me. And that's usually where somebody else really wants to get a game they love to the table. And maybe I pick up some other game. So let's see. HeavyCon, I actually played a game called Packen Wir. It's by Karl-Heinz Schmiel from Mosquito Games. But he's actually the designer of Demacher.
That's right? What I thought.
Yes. Can you believe this? So wait till you hear about this game, okay? Because instead of fighting to gain political power in Germany like you do in Demacher with the square tomatoes, but like now you're moving furniture and you're trying to earn tips by delivering literal tiny dollhouse-sized furniture pieces to the correct apartments.
Wow.
Oh, it gets better. You have to use your choice of 3 types of sticks. There's like these skinny little sticks that are like chopsticks. Then there's like regular sized popsicle sticks. Then there's like tongue depressors. There's your 3 choices.
Wow.
And you have to pick a partner. Yeah, it keeps going. You got to pick a partner. So you have to pick somebody else who's like you're playing against, really, but that's going to help you because you can't move this piano all the way up the stairs by yourself.
Of course not.
You pick a partner and they take the other implements and then you try to use your chopsticks or tongue depressor or popsicle sticks to lift this thing up and bring it to the apartment and put it in the room that they want it in. And then during the game, you're like moving up and down stairs trying to get to the door. So you have to move the right amount of spaces to get to where you want to go.
This sounds wild.
It's so wild. And you're picking up these delivery orders, right? Like, so it'll be like, deliver this to this apartment. Then you have to get to the apartment. Then you have to do delivery. If you're successful, you get a tip out of the tip bag, which is basically the pocket of whatever person you delivered it to. But sometimes, like, it's a little old lady and she reaches into her pocket and she gives you lint. And you deliver this piano for a tip of lint. And that can happen to the person that helped you too. So there's benefit to them helping you because they're going to get a tip as well. So everybody's trying to get these things delivered. And it is an absolute magical time at a convention. I played it with Cole Worley and James Nathan, huge trick-taking fan.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we had an absolute blast playing this. It's also a spectacle. Like, people were gathering around to watch us try to get these little tiny dollhouse furniture things
I have to look this up.
Yeah. And that was completely a super good time.
Packen Wirs.
Packen Wirs by Karl-Heinz Schmiel. I mean, Diemarker and then Packen Wirs. That's natural progression, really.
Totally.
It made
Wait, which one came first?
Right, Diemarker, I think.
Yeah, because isn't Diemarker like the first game that was in the BGG database? Maybe?
Yeah, it's an older one. I don't know. What was the first game in the BGG database? I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Let me see. Because if I look up Diemarker, it's from 1986, and it is. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I'm pretty sure it's number one. It's like the first game that was entered.
I mean, that makes sense. This is a classic, right? We all love Diemarker. And then Packen Wirs. If you get a chance to play Packen Wirs, completely esoteric. You're never going to find this game. Like, I did pick it up after HeavyCon. It was really hard to get, though. This is not an easy game. You could make it. You just need dollhouse furniture.
This is great.
It's fantastic.
I had never heard of this. Yeah.
So, and that leads me to another game at HeavyCon that I played, which was a really good memory. Sounds like Diemarker, but it's Demour. Demour. And this one's a game by Thomas Fackler. And Thomas Fackler is known for creating these tiny little games. They're in little cardboard boxes with just little print-on labels on them. And he makes like 50. And whenever I see one of his games, I pick it up immediately. Usually from my friend Joe Huber, who's also a game designer. He's designed some games with Rio Grande games, but usually he plays
Joe.
them. Yeah, Joe's the best. And I usually pick him up from him. I don't care whatever he prices it at. I'm just like, just call me. Just give it. I just want it. Because these are super cool little pet projects by Thomas Fackler. This one is a special edition of it. So it comes with these gates and walls and towers, right? So there's a gate, a tower, and these walls, and you are hiding them in your hand. And then whoever's the master builder picks one, puts it out. And what you're trying to do is make sure that no one else picks what you're picking, because then you get to build. You can also put an empty hand out. And then if you're the only one with an empty hand, you get to choose what you build. There's placement rules for those towers, gates, and wall pieces. If somebody else does an empty hand and you do an empty hand, then they get to give you a piece, all with the goal of you're just trying to get these pieces out of your hand first. Okay. Right? Okay. And whenever somebody goes out, everybody else counts up the points of their pieces. Towers and gates are worth more than walls, right? So you count those up and then play a few rounds, total the scores. Whoever's lowest wins. This is, again, going to that theory of the mind, right? You're kind of, what am I going to choose? So what are you going to choose? That type of thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Really fun psychology in this game. Super quick, great for late night when you want to play another game, but you're really tired. Like, you just can't maybe sit for a long rule teach, because it's a blast.
Cool. That sounds cool. Demour. Yeah. Okay.
So let's see. And the other new to me games would be ones that I played at the Gathering of Friends. One, I accidentally joined a game of Minigolf Designer by Albin Nanti. This one's from Thematic Games. It's definitely thematic. And I just saw some people sitting around. I didn't know they were playing a game. The game box wasn't on the table. I think somebody had gone to get it. And I just sat down and started talking to him. I hadn't seen him in a year. And then the game came back and they're like, oh, you're at the table. We're all playing this golf game.
Love it.
So I was like, I don't know if this is a game I'll like, but let's do it, right? No, it's awesome. You select these tiles. Cool. The tiles come out. You see what the next row of tiles is going to be too. And you're trying to get tiles to lay out your golf course. You have to, adjacency rules apply, and you have to build out these tiles. You want to assign your golf little holes so that it's like hole 1, hole 2, and that they go into each other. Because you know how it is. Like, you make a hole in 1, you don't want to walk all over to the other side of the golf course. You want to go to the beginning of hole 2.
Exactly.
So there's things like that that are beneficial for scoring. Usual, mini golf development rules apply. But then there's these two people that are asking you to build this golf course, and they have special rules. Like they maybe want the most people, and there's like little people on some of the tiles, or the most shrubbery or flowers or whatever it is. So you might be going for those two to get the most of those, because that's going to be majority wins for those points. That
sounds cool.
So much fun. And I heard a rumor that they're actually going to release an expansion of some type that lets you play the course that you've built. And I'm like, yes,
that's so cool.
That's the only thing missing from this game is now I want to play my golf course that I just built. And
I love that theme. That's so great.
Like I play with heavy gamers mostly, and there were a bunch of heavy gamers at the table. I was surprised this is what they were playing, but they had a blast with it. And to watch some of them, they were so upset, like if they couldn't get the tile they wanted, and they're like, my golf course, no! Like it was just a joy. Yeah. So,
I can't remember if it was you or someone else told me about this game at some point.
It's probably me. At the Gathering of Friends, I started going around telling everyone.
Was Simon playing with you?
Yes.
Okay, it was Simon. Okay. I was like, this is not the first time I've heard about this game being super fun from, okay.
And that's
awesome.
It,
I need to check this out. I need to check it out.
You have to. It's so cute. It's an older game, 2020, I believe. So it's just, but it's super cute. I thought it was an absolute fun time. And let's see, the other game that I played at the Gathering of Friends would be Fluxx, the board game. This isn't new. It's been out for a decade, but they have a new compact edition that just came out. So I got to play that. There's definitely more strategy in the board game version versus Fluxx, the card game, because you have to move around on these tiles. And now you're trying to go to the location of the items on the goal card. But the goals the goals always can change, right? You can change the goals, but there's a stack. So you know if somebody gets that goal, what's going to be underneath. Maybe you strategize to be ready for that next goal. You also can change how many, you're keeping track of actually how many things that you're playing or doing, or how many moves you're taking across the board with this peg system that's on the board. I kind of like that, because then you always remember. It's really clear. Like, I'm drawing this many cards, I'm playing this many cards, and I'm moving this many spaces.
And Jess, just so you know, I've actually never played Fluxx in my gaming career. I'm like, I know it has like a million card decks and it's kind of like a chaotic kind of game, but I've actually never played it before. So Fluxx is just the game with ever-changing rules, and it's a 2-minute teach. You just say, okay, we're going to play Fluxx. You are going to have 3 cards in your hand. You draw 1 card, you play 1 card. And then you have new rules in your hand, and as you play those, it's going to increase how many cards you draw. Or decrease, and how many cards you play, and it's going to change the goal of the game, so even the win condition changes. But now with the board game, you move across these tiles too, and because it's a modular board with these little square tiles, you can even use a move to move the tile. So you can spin the tile, you can move it to the other side of the board, you can make it so things wrap around, right? So that it's kind of like the Earth phenomenon. You go off one side and you come back the other. So that type of thing. So it adds like the strategy level to the card game. I really enjoyed it. Caveat, where I do work with Looney Labs. I love those people. They're the nicest people in the entire world. So I literally do anything for them. But this was my first time playing this game they've had out for a decade, and I really liked it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so this was hard for me. I guess it was hard, but it was also kind of easy. Cuz I discovered some really awesome games that I'd never tried this year. And the first one I'll just mention, I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before on this podcast. But it's Robotrick. And this is a 3-player only trick-taking game where you play with a 4th player that's a robot. That's an AI deck that has these rules. And it's just, this is one of those games. I tend to like trick avoidance games and just games that can be kind of punishing if you don't play your cards right. And Robotrick, I'm telling you, when you're playing with this robot, you're like looking at the card, well, it depends on who leads, but as soon as somebody plays a lead card, you know exactly what the robot is going to play. And the robot every round rotates who it's between. But if the robot wins the trick, everybody scores the card they played as negative points. And then you only actually are scoring 3 cards at max as positive. And then any other tricks you win become negative points. So it's just this it's so well designed. I really hope that this game kind of gets some US distribution.
Nice.
Because I think it's hard to find. It's hard to find, but it's such a great game. It's still been of all the different trick taking games that I played this year, it's one of my favorites still. This one and Schadenfreude. But another game that I've talked about that I kind of got into after Gen Con is Nemesis. I had never played Nemesis. I didn't know much about it. And you brought up The Gathering. Usually there are multiple people I hear that are in Nemesis games at The Gathering. And I'm always been a little curious, but also not really. But then for whatever reason, because just brains are weird, and I got really fascinated with the idea of playing Nemesis, eventually played it. And I think I've played it about 5 times now. And it's so great at delivering exactly what it's intended to deliver. And that's such a great story. Every game I've come out of, it has these moments that are just really funny and just memorable. And I love the intrigue that it's semi-cooperative, where it's hey, we all need to kind of get this ship to Earth, but we all have our own secret goals, and my goal could be to be the only person alive. So there could be some potential backstabbing or not. And it's
right.
You don't know. And I love that excitement of not knowing if I could really trust these people that are allegedly working with me to, for the greater good. But anyway, I love Nemesis, and I'm excited to play the new one that they just crowdfunded.
And this one's by Adam Kwapinski, right?
Yes.
I love that designer. He does such great things. Yes, I'm
pretty sure. I didn't note down the designer. And it's what is the publishing company called?
Awaken Realms.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it's just, and the other reason is this game, Matt, my partner, loves it. So anytime there's a game that resonates with him and makes him excited, this was a game, probably the only game this year that we've played that he'll be let's play Nemesis, even when I'm not I want to play a game. Yeah. Yeah. So there are only a couple games that ever
well, there's a game in my top list that's similar. You might, it's not the same, but it's it's one of those things. If you like Nemesis, then you might like this.
I think I know what you're talking about. And we both love that too.
Okay. So. I was it has the notes of this, but yeah, Adam Kwapinski, I think he's a great designer. He's coming out with that new one, Horror on the Orient Express.
Ooh.
That one it has tombs on the train. I'm really excited about that one too. That one's coming out next year. March is the Kickstarter for that one. But yeah, I'm really excited about everything that Adam does. So
yeah. And did Adam also do what is the game where you're This War of Mine? That's what I'm thinking of. I don't remember, but I also love that one. And that
I know that he did a thing for Frostpunk, but I don't know.
Okay, well, whoever did that, I love that game.
Yeah, I mean, This War of Mine is absolutely dark and delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Nemesis was a special one for me this year. And then the third game I'll mention is KeyForge, which I just played for the first time a little over a month ago. And I have not stopped thinking about it. I love like
Really?
2-player. Yeah, I love like card dueling games like this. And this one, like the fact that it's not just about me trying to reduce your life to 0 and vice versa. We're trying to collect the resources we need to forge these keys. And yeah, it's just been like really exciting for me. And I've been like just getting so into it. So anyway, I had to put that on the list. But just to give a very quick shout to a couple other games that resonated with me this year that I played for the first time. The Rich and the Good. Forget which episode of the podcast I talked about that, but it's this like really nice streamlined stock market game. Fantastic. Battlecrest, which is the button shy wallet game. Again, me with these 2-player games.
Right.
I love that. Like, and I love all the asymmetry in that game. Cerebria, I played for the first time this year, multiple times now. Love it. Like, such a cool theme, so well integrated.
The art on that is so pretty too.
Art, the production, it's a banger. I love it. And also I played Revive for the first time, and I really like that. And I've been excited to kind of revisit that one. So what about games? You know, obviously we can't play everything, but were there any games that, like, as we're closing out 2023, that you didn't get a chance to play yet that you really want to play at some point because something about it seemed cool?
Always. Yeah. There's always a list of like these, you know, to be played games that you really want to get to.
Sure.
So Septima by Robin Hedges it's from Mind Clash Games.
Yes.
This one was totally Thinker Themers' fault because I saw them talking about it and I was like, what is this? And it's about witches. You're running a witch coven, right? But you don't want to get caught by the witch hunters, so you got to keep down your suspicion. But working with other witches, while it raises more suspicion, is really beneficial and lets you do more powerful things. I love anything about witches. So that's great. The gist I got of it. And already I was like, I really want to play this.
I have played it once. It's great. Ooh. It's great. And it's, again, just like I was saying with Cerebria, like Mind Clash kind of just nails it with like really cool theme.
Yes.
Very well integrated with the mechanisms. The production is like off the charts. Yeah. Okay. What else you got?
Definitely that one. So Charcuterie, super light game. Oh. I saw this at PAX Unplugged. And I just thought it looked really, really cool. They were doing a great pre-order deal. And I was like, this looks amazing. Okay, first of all, I love charcuterie. So yes. And then I just liked how it looked. They gave me a demo and I was like, all right, I really want to at some point play this. And then I realized that one of the co-designers is Whitney Lorraine. She co-designed it with Josh Camden. And Whitney Lorraine, this I think is her first one to be published. But she has a number of different designs, and I've played some of her prototypes, and I think she's a really great up-and-coming designer.
Cool.
I'm lucky enough that she's visited the Boston area and hung out with us here, come to game days, and I did not know, because she is not super great about being like, hey, this project is getting made of mine. So I did not know. I actually saw it first and was already interested. And then I think I actually told her about it, which is like not only marginally embarrassing that I saw her post and I was like, oh,
you gotta check out this game.
Yeah. And I mean, at least she was like, I'm glad you like that.
Nice. That's funny.
So it worked out because I said I liked it at least. But yeah, so I'm excited to check out how that plays. Like, how am I making this charcuterie board?
Yeah. Great. I love that theme. That's great.
Yeah. Another thing at PAX Unplugged that I saw was they were doing 2 releases of games, Rafter 5 and Droll Polter from Oink Games, right? So anytime Oink Games is like, we're doing 2 new releases of games, I'm like, all right, I want to see what these are.
Yeah.
And I picked them up, honestly, just because there are definitely Oink games that are a miss for me, but usually not. So it's always worth it to just grab them when I see them. Yeah. It's like exactly that. I'm like, I'm willing to play the slot machine with this and see if this is one that's going to hit for me. Rafter 5, a rafter, right? So now you have to collect planks and you have to make your raft bigger, and then just hilarity ensues. Things are going to fall over and fall down, but hopefully not on your turn, right? So you've got to make it tricky for the next player to go. I saw people playing it around PAX Unplugged. They seem to be having a great time with it. So I'm excited to get that one to the table, since I do now own it. Now it's on my to be played shelf. Like,
nice.
That's its own thing.
It's
so
leveled up.
It's moved up. Yeah. And then Drill Polter, I really don't know a lot about, other than the little snippet on the back. I got it because it had a ghost meeple. And I was like, well, done. I want a ghost meeple.
Sold.
Yeah, absolutely. So ghosts apparently appear from under your bed. And then you have Lucky Charms. That, you know, you always have these Lucky Charms just for this moment, in preparation for a ghost to jump out from under your bed. And you have to drop them on command in perfect order. I don't know what happens if you don't. I imagine you get scared to death, or I don't know, but there was a ghost meeple, so I had to have
it. That's cool. So the games that I'll just mention two of these, the games that are 2023 releases that I haven't played yet, that I am really excited to play. The first one is Too Many Bones Unbreakable. Chip theory game. I am such a big fan of Too Many Bones. It is like so ridiculous. I'm outraged with myself that I have not played this yet. But I think
talk about production quality.
Oh yeah. Oh, Chip theory crushes it. Oh, yeah. So I think I just like build it up in my head that like I need a whole like day blocked so I could like really get into it and everything. So I haven't gotten it to the table yet. But it's like I keep wanting to play it because I love Too Many Bones so much. So I think I'm going to try to finally play it over the holidays.
You're going to put it on the calendar, Candice. You're just going to be like, all right, this is Unbreakable Sunday. Day.
Yes, this is Unbreakable Day. There's so many like new gear locks to try. I'm so excited about it. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. Another game. So Dune Imperium is like, I'm a huge fan of Dune Imperium, especially I played the Rise of Ix expansion with it like months ago at this point, but like it was my first time playing it with the expansion after I played it probably half a dozen times at least, base game, and just loved it. I love the feeling I get when I'm playing it. Like there's that victory point system that's like Twilight Imperium where you're racing to get to 10 points. Like there's just so much tension and every single point matters. And I love deck building and worker placement also. So just the Dune, even though the theme isn't as like nearly as thematic as the OG Dune board game, but I still like the Dune world and the story, the lore and everything. So Dune Imperium Uprising is another game that I'm super stoked to play very soon. It's designed by Paul Dennen and from Direwolf. And
nice.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to play that one. And then the other one that I was kind of thinking about is just Earthborne Rangers. I backed it. I got my copy. But KeyForge has been the card game that I've been playing lately when I play card games.
Yeah, so it's on your to be played shelf. You just gotta get it on the table.
It's on my to be played shelf. It's here, you know. I'm very curious about it because I do like cooperative card games like that and Arkham Horror and stuff. And the theme is really cool. But you know what, Jess? I think we should start talking about these.
Is it time?
It's time
This is stressful. I'm not going to lie. It's stressful coming up with these lists because I'm like, I mean, would I play this again?
Yeah.
In the future? Is this a game with staying power? Did I just like it this year?
Yeah.
There's so many factors into making these lists. I like that we both went with alliterations. I have like 5 favorites and you have your top 10.
Yeah. That's great. That is great. Yeah. So I probably, I mean, I don't know. We're both probably people that play a lot of new games each year. Like you said, you're playing a lot of like prototypes with your line of work and everything, but you're also playing new stuff on heavy cardboard and everything. But I definitely play a lot of new games because I'm covering them either on this podcast or BGG News or just because I'm curious.
Of course.
But this was definitely hard, and I really appreciate. I like what like people like Dan from Game Boy Geek and like Thinker Themer did, and other people that do these lists where they break it up and they're like, oh, these are my favorite top 10 small box games, top 10 heavy Euros, or whatever. Like that would have been much easier.
I think so. I was thinking about that. I actually purposely tried to make the top 5 like different games because I was like, well, I don't want to do all worker placement Euros. I want to make sure they're different. So so I tried to kind of set them apart since we weren't doing separate lists.
And this was kind of like, you know, I keep things casual. It's kind of flexible. So like my list is kind of based on games that I've played and I'm like most excited to play again. In some cases it's a game I played quite a few times and I keep wanting to play it. In some cases it's a game I might have only played once, but I like am just confident based on how I felt about that initial play that it has staying power. And then I also kind of went for variety, almost as if like, hey, these 10 games that I picked, if for the next 6 months, these are the only games that I can play, do I have enough to scratch all the itches? You know?
That's exactly what I went for too. I wanted kind of breadth, and I easily could have done 10, which we'll see when we come to like our honorable mentions. But I kind of wanted to keep it breadth, and I wanted it to be games that I actually see myself getting to the table again outside of 2023. Not just games that, hey, this was a great thing for 2023, but I'm probably never going to play it again.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, with that all being said, what's
tons of caveats.
Tons of caveats.
Yes.
What's your number 5?
All right, so this was tough for me. I left this as my number 5 because it's really super easy to get to the table. I've always had, I'm going to preface this just a little bit. I've always had really good luck with getting other people to play this game. Or having people ask me to come play this game. Part of that is probably because it is truly best at 4 players. You really need 4 players for this game. And it is La Famiglia, the Great Mafia War, from Fjorlandspiel. It's Maximilian Maria Thiel is the designer. And it can play 2 players. It is 2v2 or 1v1, but it's best when you're doing it the 2v2. So, so you tend to be, if you're playing at a convention, then you're looking for this exact player count. You want people who are going to be into the game because it really is dynamic where you're, working against and with each other, right? So there's 2 phases. You're planning out what you're going to do. You need fighters and skills and secret orders that are going to get revealed in your second phase, which is the combat phase. And that's where you execute these orders from anything from fighting to bombs. And you're trying to take over regions on the board so that you become the next head of Sicily. You want to take over Sicily. So there's cooperative, but like you definitely like you need to make sure that your side wins at the end. So
I got to try this one.
It's fun. The teach can be a little long, but it's super intuitive once you're playing. It really isn't that hard. It's just telling everybody like these are the phases and this is what you need to build up, and the order of things is important to understand. And then even when you're doing the fighting, back to that theory of mind, right? You're going to have 3 cards in your hand. Everybody has these same 3 cards. You're going to put them face down, and then you're going to decide whether you're going to take the other person's card over to your side, and they have to decide if they're taking their card to their side. Yeah. And then it's based on what card is it, right? Is it the card I want over here? Do I want you to have both? What do I want to have happen?
Spicy.
So you kind of,
like
what did you choose? What do I think you choose? And then if you think that I think that you're going to choose that, did you choose something?
Yes, I need to play this.
Yeah.
La Famiglia.
La Famiglia. Yep.
Cool.
The Great Mafia War.
All right. Yeah, I love 2v2 games. I mean, that's the only way I've played Cerebria at this point. And yeah, I enjoy. I need to do an episode at some point on like team games that aren't party games.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that thought. Write that down. Team games.
I think I actually have it written down at some point after I played Guardians of Atlantis too. I was like, ooh. But anyways.
This is a thing. It's an experience.
Yes. I love that experience. So I'm going to do my number 10 and my number 9 as a little sandwich here. And my number 10 is a game this is a game that I've only played one time and I just played very recently. It could have very well been a fresh play, but I put it on here, so I didn't put it as a fresh play. But it's Bloodstones, which is a new Martin Wallace game by his publishing company, Wallace Designs. And it's a fantasy war game for 1 to 6 players featuring like 6 different, slightly asymmetric factions. And you are playing with multi-use domino-shaped tiles, and each one is a unit, but you could also spend it. So they're multi-use. Yeah. So you can place it as a unit. You can use the dominoes to pay for units to deploy them. You can discard one to use it as movement points to move other units around the board.
Sure.
And one of the things that's like really, really cool about this game, besides the fact that you're using the tactile experience is really cool, but instead of a game board, you play on these like silk mats, and there are I think 5 maps in the game, and the art is gorgeous on them. So you have a lot of gameplay packed into this box. We played a 4-player game. It goes 1 to 6. So there's lots of like flexibility with how many people you're playing with, which map you choose, like adds a lot of like variability. The different factions, again, I say slightly asymmetric because it's not like something like Root where we're all playing completely different games. Like there's a lot of overlap with like, oh, if I have a cavalry unit, it works the same as your cavalry unit. But like
so you know what other people are doing, like it's
yeah. But there are some differences. Like I was playing as the dragons, so I have these 2 dragons that can do some special things. And, you know, I have some other special abilities. So every faction has their own little special thing to them. Nice. But basically, you're trying to put these villages out on the board and kind of build up your forces and protect your villages. Because when you have to shuffle your deck of dominoes back into your bag, you're going to score points for each of your villages that are out on the table. So having villages out is a big source of your points. Sure. But you can also capture other people's villages, and you also get victory points when you win battles against people. And I love games like this. I really like how this feels like it has like kind of like that epic war gamey feel to it, but it's very intuitive once you like it's not too complex to learn.
Sure.
I love these multi-use dominoes because it's like your like hand management or tile management is really, really interesting. Like, oh, do I want to put this out? Because if so, I need to discard 2 to pay for it. Well, which ones do I want to discard? Oh, I want to save this because this has a lot of movement points and I want to use that to move these people around. So there's like, has lots of really cool decisions. Again, the art and the components are like really, really cool. And I kind of like randomly discovered this game earlier this year when I was doing an import order of trick-taking games from Tanuki Games. And I think I was trying to like get free shipping or something. So I was like, what else do they have?
Something else.
And I just like found this game. They were offering like Kickstarter versions of it. And so I bought it, and my friend Jordan had backed it and he got his copy, and that's what we played. But my copy comes tomorrow. But this game just seems like something that like, you know, it's going to have a lot of staying power because there's so much variability with the maps and the different combinations of factions that you play, and it's easy to pack up and travel with and everything.
Nice.
And then my number 9, so that was Bloodstones, my number 10.
And that was on GameFound, right? I think that was end of last year. I remember I did play the prototype. So
oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay. Is that your kind of game or
Not particularly my kind of game, but I did like how the dominoes worked. And I mean, like you said, having those different maps. I think at the time with the prototype, there was just one, but I liked the idea that like there were going to be all these different maps that you were going to get.
Yeah, the terrain is so different on all of them, and it just like it presents like really like different challenges for how you play the game.
Yeah,
which I like to have like all that variability in a game.
Exactly, because you can get it to the table again. And
yeah, exactly. And it's like my friend Jordan played it twice 2-player, and he was just saying like the 4-player game was like played out completely differently, and even the 2-player games because they played with different combinations.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Is that like often games have like a best, and that's really their best. It's like the best with 3 players.
You only play that 4-player, yeah.
But no, I've heard this is like great from 2 all the way to 4. So that's
I see that, and that's why it just kind of slid in on the list this week.
I can see that.
But I really dig it, and it's kind of that's my jam. We were playing like the Game of Thrones soundtrack while we were playing it too.
Yes, perfect.
And then my number 9 is Land and Freedom, and this is by Alex Knight and Blue Panther. And I already talked about this one in a little more depth on episode 30 of the BGG podcast, but this is just an awesome semi-cooperative 3-player card-driven game. And it does a card-driven game uniquely with like where you build your tableau. You're making a little engine of having icons that synergize. Yeah. But I just love that tension of, hey, we all need to take care of fascism together, but I want to win. I want to make sure I have the initiative.
Yeah.
And it's just like really, really cool. And I just love like great 3-player games like that have the interactions between the 3 players.
Yeah.
So you played this one?
I have played this one. This one would have made my list. This would be my honorable mention that definitely would have been on my list. And yeah, I love that it's like anarchists, communists, and moderates, right? And so you're doing your own thing, but you have to beat the fascists. And then I like that you basically, if you're in charge of the government, you get to add your tokens into the glory bag, right?
Yeah.
And so you can mitigate that by having control of the glory bag, because that's going to be, then you're going to draw those out.
Yeah, for your scoring. Yeah.
Exactly. Unless the fascists win, in which case, well, glory doesn't matter anymore.
But yeah, it's such a cool game. It's such a cool game. So well done. So that was Land and Freedom, my number 9. Jess, we're on to your number 4.
So my number 4, this is the one that I was mentioning to you. Might be something that's up your alley. If you like Nemesis, then you might like Stationfall.
I love Stationfall. Spoiler alert. I do love it.
So Stationfall is by Matt Eklund from Ion Game Design. 1 to 9 players. That is not something you list as a player count very often. I do think it's best right in the middle there, like around a 5-player game, but it's also awesome at 9 players if you have experienced players playing it, or people who are just ready to dive into the crazy, because it gets crazy at 9 players. But you are a dozen or so random, I think there's humans, there's robots, there's
chimp,
anything, all of these things. Yes, Astro Chimp. And you're turned loose on this space station that, of course, is going to be incinerated when it comes back into Earth's atmosphere. So you have this time track of like, okay, we're going to incinerate. And until then, you have these hidden identity and agenda that goes along with your identity that you need to complete. So timing is key here. And at every turn, you get to decide, am I going to reveal who I am and then take control of my character? When I say take control, because if you are not revealed, then other people can move you and do things with you and use your powers. And that's just crazy. Like, you're watching yourself move across the board and you're like, I don't want to be over there. Like,
but you can't say anything because the timing's not right.
Right. You don't want to reveal yet because you need to use somebody else's power to go over here because they're in the right location for this other thing you need to turn on or turn off or explode or whatever it is, launch. So, and I like the artwork of it. I like the space station and how you move around that and up and into different rooms. I like the conversations that happen around the table as you're doing this, and you're like, I'm going to activate this in this room, and people are like, no.
Yeah. This is one that I was referring to also when I was thinking about games that came out earlier this year. And it didn't make my list, but I do love it. It's definitely an honorable mention for me because I think I've played it about 3 or 4 times, and every single time it's been a hoot. I love the storytelling, and it scratches a similar itch to Nemesis, but in a very different way.
Very different way, yes. Yeah. But again, that kind of, if you like, then you might like, because there's that overlap to the feeling you get playing this game. And the rules are pretty simple, but I will say the setup takes a lot because you're going to have to put all those characters out, and they may have different items. Yeah. Once you're used to that, it's not hard. Like, there's icons for everything across the game. But when you're first looking for those, or like the first time you set it up, I think you do have that little bit of a like, okay, wow, this is a lot to set up. But once you've done that,
it gets easier.
It does get easier. And I love that just no play is the same. There's no way it can be the same.
Yeah.
People are going to play it out differently, do different things. You know, the characters are going to be different in the game because there's so many of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's on my shelf. No, it's great. Station Fall is awesome.
This is another one I have to caveat. I volunteer help with Ion Game Design on things. So they are a publisher that I work with as well. So, and that's actually given me the opportunity to not only play this a lot, but watch people play it a lot. And I can tell you, it's actually even fun to watch people play.
I love games like that where you don't even mind sitting out because it's so entertaining seeing the interactions of the people who are playing.
Totally happy to just run a game and do that setup for them super fast and then help them with things, because it's a blast to see their interactions and their chagrin, because at the beginning you have so much time and you're like, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and then all of a sudden you're like, 2 more turns, no. I can't make it out.
Yeah. It's
so that's Station Fall.
It's a banger. Yep. All right. So my number 8 and my number 7 are coming up. So my number 8 is Evenfall. You like witch games? I don't know if you've tried this yet.
I have not.
This is designed by Stefano De Silvio and it's published by DLP. And this is basically, it's a unique like tableau builder with a little worker placement and factions that can be played asymmetrically. Like, you don't have to play them on the asymmetric side, but there are lots of really fun card combos, and the way you manage your tableau is interesting because there are 2 tiers to your tableau. You have your outer circle and then you have your inner circle, and you're going to be playing these ritual cards on top of places of power. And while the cards are at the top in your outer circle, they will generate resources when you harvest. But in order for them to score victory points at the end, you need to then transfer them down into your inner circle. Also, when they're in your inner circle, you have 2 different types of workers you can place in this game. And your elders can only be placed on, so some of the cards that you play give you worker placement spaces, personal spaces, but you can't place your elders on them until you transfer it down to your inner circle. But again, now we can't get resources from that. But I'm giving myself the benefit. So there's a whole thing of managing your cards, when to bring things down versus leaving them up. And there's also a component at the end of each round where you have this like battle phase where you're competing to get these little tokens that kind of boost your in-game scoring. I've played it twice so far. And every time I play it, I've had a blast and I just want to like play it again. So, I like card games. I like worker placement. I like witch theme games.
Yeah.
And so this one has like a lot going on that I have been enjoying and I keep wanting to come back to it. So that's my number 8, Evenfall. And my number 7 is Kutnohora. This is probably no surprise if anybody has listened to any of the episodes of this podcast since I got back from Essen. Yeah. But this is a new CGE game designed by Andra Bistron, Petra Kaslava, and Pavel Jarosz. And it's just an awesome, unique city building economic Euro game with like a lot of like really interesting player interaction from the dynamic supply and demand system that just like keeps you on your toes. Like you have to be prepared for any situation. I love how games always feel so different depending on, you know, which buildings show up first, what people start building, which guild am I associated with. This is a game that like I just keep coming back to, and every time I play it, it's another one that just excites me. I feel like the scoring is pretty tight for it. So so Kutnahora is my number 7. So I think we're jumping back to you for your number 3, Jess.
Yes, back to my number 3. So Hollyoak is my number 3. And as I was saying, I was trying to make sure that there was kind of a breadth of games, not just all the same type of games. And I do try to make sure I'm playing a whole bunch of different games so I don't kind of get in that rut of like, but this is the game I like. I'm just going to play these. Yeah. So Hollyoak is actually a trick taker. It's by Tom Lehman, 1846 designer, right? Like this.
I remember hearing about this.
Yes.
I haven't played it.
It's from Rio Grande Games, and it's 3 to 5 players. I think it's best if you max this one out. You don't have to. You definitely can play it 3, 4, and 5. I personally just am like, let's max this. Let's get 5 people in here. So it's about the seasons, Hollyoak. It's the seasons rule. You must you must follow the current season if you can, but if you can't, then you can play any card. Gotcha. If you play the next season after the current season, then the season changes. Right? So you can throw a card by playing something that's not the next season if you want to slough off, but if you play the next season, you just changed what Trump is. Ooh. So, yeah, you don't even know if you're starting, if that's going to be Trump at the end, because it may change and go to the next season. And it could happen multiple times. Already. Then the next person can't go. Remember, you can't have the current season, but if you don't, then you can move into that next season. And now you are going to take that trick. So scoring, really simple. You're going to score the kings. There's Holly and Oak King cards that are worth 1 or 2 points each. So again, reasons you may want to take that trick, or maybe it's a dud of a trick, you don't want to take it, that type of thing. But then there's also no trick point awarding. So if you take no tricks, it's 8, 5, or 3 points in a 3, 4, or 5 player game, respectively.
Okay.
So that can be big. And it does lower the point scoring for that if it's a 5 player game, because there's more opportunity to take no tricks, obviously. But 3 points is still big when the kings are only worth 1 or 2. And it's just fun to try. We talked about this, the no trick taking. It's fun to try to not take the trick.
Yeah.
And gamble with that. So I love going for the no trick scoring. And the mid trick chump changes, they mess with you. Because the seasons can change so fast. If the next person doesn't have the season, you're all of a sudden in summer and then fall. And you're like, no, I needed that. I put the king down. And yeah.
I need to play this.
Yeah.
I need to play this.
Great.
I remember reading Tom's designer diary on this, and I didn't even realize it came out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm picking this one up.
It did come out. Rio Grande's got it. And I mean, trick takers are all the rage, but this one does feel unique to me amongst the new ones and even some of the favorites out there. I definitely see myself continuing to play this. It's just such a simple rules teach. I mean, you could literally play it right now. You'd have no problem. There's no further explanation needed.
If I had it here, I would play it right now. I would just hit stop on the recording and play
Pause, play a game, come back.
Awesome. So that's Hollyoak. I'm going to definitely be picking that up. All right. My number 6 is Sky Team by Luc Ramon and Scorpion Mask and Hachette. And this game, if I were to name a game that I think has probably been mentioned, not just by me, but like other people have been guest co-hosts on this podcast, I think Sky Team came up the most this year.
For sure.
So I'm not alone. Yeah, I'm not alone in my love for it, but it is it's just an awesome 2-player limited communication cooperative game with a unique theme that's just like so well done. you're one player is a pilot, the other is the co-pilot. You're working together to land planes. And it's you're placing dice. So you each have your own stash of dice that you roll behind a screen, and you're playing them to do things to successfully land planes. And the game comes with like all these different modules and different airports that kind of change up the rules. So there's like so much in the game. And I've only played with one of the modules before. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, I'm usually playing with like new people. So I haven't gone deep with it, but I still just like
you're just
love
playing that one over and over.
Yeah,
I
love it. Yeah. So that is my number 6 Sky Team.
I have played that one. I got to play that at the gathering.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, nice.
This is one of those things where I think it was I need to try different scenarios, because the first scenario I think was just too easy for me.
Okay.
Because I should say, we played it and just it was no problem. It. We had no issue. We landed it. We're like, well, clearly we could just land planes now, because we landed this no issue.
You need to play with the gas module then.
Yeah, I think it needed to be heavier, because that's a thing I have to watch. Like if I win something right away, I tend to be like, oh,
yeah.
I
get that.
A challenge. So I would have to go back and make sure I try like a really hard. So that, because then if I try a game,
you want to be challenged.
Yes, because if I play a game and lose terribly, then I'm like, I must conquer it. I must play it again.
Yeah, I think the challenges with me have come with like whoever I'm playing with.
Yeah,
and sometimes, especially with new people, sometimes like we have to. There's certain spaces where we both have to place a die every round. So it's like there's like some tension of like, oh, I hope they have a low number to put a high number. So you might have gotten a little lucky.
No, it actually could be who you're playing with, right? So,
oh yeah.
Right. I'm playing with Edward, and like I think got each other. We're like, I need to. So we were very easy to be like, that's the clear choice. That's the clear choice. And just like,
cool.
Went through this. But if I was playing with somebody who didn't get me, we might be like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah. So that definitely, and also I do think that some of the modules will give it that spice you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because with the fuel, you have to put a die. If you don't put a die on the fuel, you're going to lose 6 levels of fuel.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're like, okay, well now one of my 4 dice is definitely going there, because we cannot let run out of fuel or we lose the game. So that adds just like another tension point that makes it like spicier.
All right, you got me. I'm going to revisit
easy.
it. I'm going to have to play it again.
Cool. Yes, I convinced you. So that's Sky Team, and then my number 5 is Border Reavers, which is a GMT game designed by Ed Beach, who's the designer of Here I Stand. And this is a game I talked about on episode 30 as well. This game just feels so unique to me. It's like this hybrid of card drafting, got some like Euro resource management feels, but it also has some war game elements. And like that's my jam,
Yes.
And in this game, like every player is a family. It's set in the 16th century in the midst of the raids and battles that were happening along the border of England and Scotland. And it's just like, I started reading a book on this history because I'm like, this is like really fascinating stuff. And I think that's what inspired Ed to design this. He read a book and he's like, whoa. And I feel like even not having finished reading the book yet, it just like, it feels so thematic, like all the mechanisms tie in so well, like the importance of livestock. So this is probably the only GMT game you'll ever find that has sheep like tokens, like it's freaking Uwe Rosenberg game.
Yes.
And it's got like you're dealing with family feuds and capturing other opponents' reavers. Meanwhile, you're trying to get you want your family to be the most notorious in all these different areas called marches. There's just like a lot of really interesting card play. I love what's going on.
And they're stealing your sheep. They're stealing them.
I have to protect my sheep.
Oh, I'm in. No, this sounds absolutely great.
It's really cool and like really different. And, I was kind of saying I like the mind games and intrigue and games and stuff. And this one has like, there's a certain phase where everybody has to play a card face down. And then you're basically saying where you're going to be kind of like doing either your raiding or battling or whatever you're doing for that round. And depending on which cards people play, I think that was impacting turn order or something or another. I don't know. It's just like, it's really cool. And it's not really like anything else I've played.
I haven't played this yet. I'm in now. I definitely want to play this.
You guys should definitely check it out.
Yeah. I mean, even just looking at the cover, I want this as a poster on my wall. It's fantastic. This is great.
So that's my number 5. That's Border Reavers. And I guess we're up to your number 2.
You're up to my number 2. This is what happens when you do like fave 5
and a top 10
over here. So Horseless Carriage is my number 2.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's designed by Jeroen Douwman and Joris Wersinga. This is from Spalater Spellen. 3 to 5 players, probably best at 4. And the theme's just amazing. I love the intro to this game. It's so tongue-in-cheek about the invention of the automobile. Yeah. And just how kind of insane it was that we're inventing automobiles without any real idea of what it needs to work well and be safe.
Yeah.
And
how about that?
Like, are we levers or pedals to steer? Sure. A wheel to accelerate? Why not? I mean, who needs brakes? How do we clear the windshield in the rain? Do we even have a windshield? Like, the craziness of the things that were being thrown out there, I think, is a really fun thing to dive into, right? So we're an aspiring industrialists. We're trying to figure out what features people are going to buy. Like, what do they want in these crazy machines, these horseless carriages? So it has comedy at the same time. You're playing this like really deep game where you have to advance technologies, and the turn order matters, really, really matters. Like, that's an important role in the game. So that you can access even more technologies that are potentially unlocked by other players. So gets into that, what are you doing? And can I utilize that? And should I go first so that I can then open these up and use those technologies that I maybe haven't gotten to yet, haven't moved up that track yet.
Such an awesome brain burner.
It is. And then that's not even bringing into fact the Tetris style issue of your factory.
Oh my goodness. That part breaks my brain.
Yes, mine too. Oh, it's like pipeline breaks my brain. Like now I'm setting this up and what am I going to need? And great, your factory, I think there's like in the beginning, you're like, well, my factory gets bigger as the game goes on. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's not fine. It is totally not fine. There is not enough space. You have to leave room for your loading dock and you can't block it. You got to put your car dealership in there. It has to fit somewhere so that you can sell cars. And you want to make it bigger, but where's the room? Like it absolutely kills you. And it's just both painful and lovely at the same time.
I agree. And yes, Horseless Carriage is on my honorable mentions list. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It is like so good. I've only played it twice and it's been a little bit. It's been a hard one to get to the table for me.
Yeah.
But I think the reason I didn't put it on this list, even though I think it's really awesome and I really want to like get better at it and explore it more, is because The Great Zimbabwe is my favorite splatter game, and I don't play that enough. And I feel like I every time I think about playing a splatter, I want to play The Great Zimbabwe, and I feel like that's going to like be the next one that I like dive deep with. And at some point, I'm going to get back. You hear me?
And then you'll come back. I hear you because it's like Scout and Tilt, like you talked about before. You want to stick with this. So you're going to do Great Zimbabwe, but eventually.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, I want some
horseless carriages.
Yeah, because I think it's amazing. I think it is such a fantastic.
They
game.
do such a good job. I mean, they really deep dive in their designs. This is not a quickly put together game.
Right.
There's a lot of work put into a lot of plays put into it, and you can really see that in the design of their games. And a heavy game like this, it can have a high barrier to entry. So I like that they included the introductory rules. Did you play with the introductory rules or the regular?
I don't remember. And actually,
they recommend it.
Okay, the first time I played this was actually with Urine at the Gathering. Okay. So I don't remember how we did that. And the second time was before I got my copy. Someone else had it. And he did the teach. So I don't really remember, actually.
But I just like that exists, that there's like the introductory way to start out until you're more experienced. And I think a game like this can potentially have an experience differential, right? You have played it so many times, you know that you're not going to have enough space. You know, like some tricks and how to work with the technologies a little better that maybe in a first play people aren't going to know.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that introductory setup, then it kind of brings that down a little bit so that folks aren't having, like, there's less to grok in your first play and then add things in later. Yeah. I just like when a designer thinks of these things and offers that, because anything...
Yeah, you have a better experience.
Yes, and anything that lowers that barrier to entry to these games is a good thing.
Yes.
And sure, if you don't need that, then don't play it. You don't have to. It's just there as an option and get in, but it's a good option.
All right. Horseless Carriage. Great pick. Great pick. So for my number 4, we're talking about trick avoidance. I have Rebel Princess.
Yes.
Which
take a shot.
Rebel Princess has been my jam. I think I've played it about 8 times now, and I've taught it to a lot of people. It has just been, so this is by Daniel Byrne, Jose Gerardo Guerrero, Kevin Pilas, Tirso Virgos, and it's published by Zombie Paella. And this is a game I've talked about before. I don't remember exactly what episode, but everybody's playing as a different princess, and you're trying to avoid marriage proposals. And there's a prince suit of cards. One of the suits is princes that each have a marriage proposal. So you don't want to win prince cards ever. Mm-mm. On top of that, there's a pet suit. And in the pet suits, there is an enchanted frog that has 5 proposals on it. So you never want that frog.
No proposals. Just give me the frog.
I can't have both in this game.
No.
Or actually, you have to have both, the frog and the proposals.
Yes.
But so this is, again, I love trick avoidance games. This game has all these different round cards which change up the rules of the round. So every game you play has like different combinations, because I think the deck of round cards is like 20, there might be like 25 of them or something, and you play with 5 each game, so you have a different combination. And they just change up the rules of the game. It could be something like, hey, when you get your cards dealt to you, pass 1 card to the right, and then separate your deck in half, put half aside, play the first half, then pass the second half to your neighbor on the left, and then you play that. And all this time, you're trying to avoid winning princes and winning that. You're trying to avoid that frog. And it's just amazing.
Yes.
So wait, have you played this?
No,
or not yet?
I love it. This is great.
Yeah. And all the princesses have their own powers too. So it's just so fun. I've played it at every player count. I really, really enjoy it. So that's my number 4, Rebel Princess. My number 3 is probably no surprise to people who know me. Great Western Trail is one of my favorite games. So I, of course, have Great Western Trail New Zealand on here. It's an Alexander Pfister game from Igert Spiel. And I love this new version of it. I'm not prepared to say that New Zealand is my favorite version of Great Western Trail. I don't know yet, but I really like it. I love the look of it too.
There's sheep.
Having sheep cards. Yeah. I got 2 sheep games on my list here. But yeah, like the Pathfinder track you have where you're unlocking bonuses, the new choices you have with deck building. And like even like the fact that like midway through each game, you flip half of the neutral buildings over and they have like kind of a different effect. It's like I have never played enough Great Western Trail for how much I love it. And I think all 3 games are different. Like they have a different feel to them, though they still all feel Great Western Trail. And it's just, again, one of my favorite games. And I love this new version. So my number 3 is Great Western Trail New Zealand.
Fantastic. All right, that brings me to my number 1.
Yeah. Drum roll.
I know. I get to talk about my number 1. This one was not hard for me at all. I knew what my number one was going to be the whole time. And I think that's good.
Me too. I knew.
That's a good year. If you know, you're like, this game was far and above. And it's Hegemony. So by Hegemonic Project Games, Vangelis Bagiotakis and Varnavas Timotho. So this game, I mean, how can an asymmetric, political, economic, card-driven board game be fun? And again, we talked about not every game has to be fun, but this one I actually enjoy. Like I would assign fun to this as a game. I mean, you're playing as the working class, the middle class, the capital class, and the state itself. And I do think it plays best at 4 players when you're playing with all of those. Can play it at 2 players and 3 players, but I think it really does shine when you can get people to the table and play everything. Because everything in the state is a mess, right? We have to fix it. We have to fix it for our class group anyway, because who cares about the rest of them? But we want to make things better. So if they're the worker class, then you control the workers. If you're the capitalist class, you control the companies. And the middle class is my favorite because it combines elements from both the working class and the capitalist. It has workers who can go to work in the capitalist companies, and you can build smaller companies of its own. So that's the sweet spot for me. I definitely think if you've only played the others, you might have a different view of this game. But I really, really enjoyed playing the middle class and then branching out to check out the other classes. And I think that, but I do think that might have skewed, like that definitely helped, I think, shine this game for me. And then the state has to keep everyone happy with benefits, subsidies, but it still needs to make money, right? And not go too far into debt. So it's going to have taxes, make money, but still kind of distribute some of that back out to everybody in the state. The voting is super interesting in this. You vote with your influence, right? And this is key to impacting the policies, whether it's your taxes, the labor market, foreign trade. I mean, how many times get out the vote? Like voting is super important. This game absolutely ties that in and is bringing that into the theme. And I feel like you do sit there. It's an educational game where while you're playing, you're kind of thinking about the real world implications of this or where you've seen this in the real world. And I really like that. It teaches you something while you play.
Makes you think, They
actually had academics, like they put actual academic principles and checked them and made sure that it was working appropriately in the game so that it imitated the real world. And I think that's just a level, again, a passion project to make this the experience that they wanted it to be. And truly it's an experience. When you watch your friends play as the other classes and like squash your dreams, and well, it's unique. Every time you play it, you're like, really? Why? Fine.
Yeah. And the voting, like that element kind of always reminds me of the agenda phase in Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
Which like, I really like that. And you're actually, I just haven't played it in a while, but I love Hegemony. It's another honorable mention. I'm not just copying off you, but I promise it's on my honorable mention list. And I'm actually like, I questioned a lot if I was going to put it on here. The reason it didn't make it on is probably because I haven't played it recently, mainly because as you talk about things, I'm remembering how much I like love it. And I think it's such an impressive design. My one play of it took a very long time. So I was thinking about that a little bit. And I think it was the group that I was playing with a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I still like really, really enjoyed it. But I'm like, how often is that going to get played if it ends up being like, I think we were at like 5.5, 6 hours to play.
That's long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, at that point, do I play an 18XX or do I play Twilight Imperium? You know, I don't know. But I do like love that it's a card driven economic game with like so much asymmetry that's so like interwoven well. Yeah. And I backed it. I have it and it's on my shelf of opportunity to play. I'm actually planning to like, I do have a game scheduled to play because John Clare, the game designer, D. Clare, he's been like asking me to play. So I was like, okay, so we set a date. So I will be playing it soon. So as I said, this whole list is as of today.
Right. When you play
it might
it
be
again
different
with John
next week.
DeClaire,
Yeah.
you might be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, this is actually my number one.
Right.
It won't be my number one though, but I do like think it's like such a great game, and it sort of should be on my list. So
I
are you ready?
You. See, we're convincing each other here. Nice.
Are you ready to hear my number two and my number one?
Number two and number one.
Okay.
What do you got?
Okay, so my number two is KeyForge Winds of Exchange. Surprise, surprise. This is the set that just came out a couple months ago. Again, KeyForge, I gushed about it. I will continue gushing about it until I'm done gushing about it. But it's Richard Garfield, and it's published by Ghost Galaxy. And yeah, I just have a thing for card games, and this one, I don't know, this one just like brought something different out in me. And I think I was hearing someone talk about it once and was saying like, yeah, this is a game that of these kind of 2-player card dueling games that's sort of in a space of like Magic or something like that.
Yeah,
like this could be the one that's way more appealing to a lot of like Euro gamers and people who play more tabletop games, because again, there's something different about that element of like, I'm collecting this resource to forge these keys, and just like the hand management of not having a cost on your cards, but having these different houses that kind of like, it's so exciting to see how different houses work together in the cards that you have in your deck. It's so good. But like the thing with Winds of Exchange, it introduced token creatures. So every set kind of introduces a something new element or mechanism to it. And this creates token creatures where you're playing cards from the top of your deck face down. And so it's like you're losing that card temporarily, and it has a different effect. So it's like just really neat to play around with that. But yeah, I'm really hype about this game. And again,
I
like
love I love how excited you are about it.
It's been like over a month, and literally every day I'm wanting to play this game, and I don't get to every day, and it breaks my heart just a little bit. But yeah, so that is my number two, just because I think it has a lot of staying power. There's so much variability with the different decks that you play, and I've even played some of the co-op KeyForge Adventure co-op scenarios, which is cool too that they exist. But my number one
dun, 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 dun.
is Age of Innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Age of Innovation. Oh my goodness. Helge Ostertag, and it's published by Capstone Games and Fjordland Spiel. And, you know, this is the reimplementation of Terra Mystica, which is like this game kind of made me rediscover how much I love Terra Mystica, and got me to rediscover Gaia Project. These are all top tier heavy Euro games for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the player interaction. I love how deep the strategy is, how much replayability there is, like how each game, each round is kind of like its own puzzle. How can I try to take advantage of these points and improve my board position? I don't know. I just like, I love it so much. And it's just like, when I think about trimming my collection down, and like Age of it, probably all three of them, Age of Innovation, Terra Mystica, and Gaia Project, are going to be like whatever. If I say I'm only keeping 20 heavy Euro games, like they're for sure.
Really, even with the overlap, you're like, nope, I need.
Oh, okay. Maybe if I was like cutting, I would have to see what other games I'm considering. But Age of Innovation and Gaia Project for sure.
Okay.
I don't know if I would. You know, for now, I want to keep Terra Mystica also.
Yeah.
But
luckily you don't have this problem. You don't have to go down to 20. You're okay.
Yeah.
This was on my honorable mention as well.
Okay.
I love this game. I hesitated. The only reason I didn't have it really that high in my top games is the experience differential. I feel like this game, Terra Mystica as well, Gaia Project as well, has a really big experience differential. So that if you're playing with folks that are really have played hundreds of times, you're just not going to know what they know, and you're not going to be able to compete against that. Now, that said, I'm sure that's influenced by the fact that I am generally playing this with folks that have hundreds, if not thousands of plays of Terra Mystica. Like they're literally playing games at game day while playing Terra Mystica on an app. Like that's how much I know the type. It.
Yeah.
So that's the caveat though. That's there's that kind of group dependence. And for me, I'm never going to be at their level when they play it that frequently.
Yeah, I can't catch up. And I will just to sort of go on the opposite end of that. I'll say I agree with you. Like, yeah, there's definitely like a skill to playing these games, but I think with the way Age of Innovation mixes the combination of factions, it's gonna like challenge people a little bit, even if they do have experience.
For sure.
And my very first play of Age of Innovation, I would say I was playing with all people who probably had way more Terra Mystica and Gaia Project experience than me. But on my very first after I placed my first 2 buildings, I was like, I've lost the game. I got no neighbors. I've lost the game. But I ended up pulling it together, finding some synergies with my innovation tiles and competencies, I guess, and I ended up winning the game. Nice. And like that's what like kind of excites me about this game is that like even when I feel like crap, I'm in a rut, I pull. And I knew what you mean. I do have like a couple people that I play with occasionally who are sharks and like who are those people who played hundreds of games of Terra Mystica, and I'm definitely not. But like I played a game with one of those guys in it, and I was like not far behind him.
Yep.
So like, and he thought he was gonna like completely whoop us.
You're right. With Age of Innovation, it wasn't as present as with the other 2. So that's good.
Because it's always like mixing it up and kind of keeping you on your toes. But I totally understand that of like, and maybe I'm just also not playing with people, mostly not playing with people that are that level. Because that would not be fun if it's like, every single time.
Yeah, and that's just what I worry about. I loved it. I love the game. It's just what I worry. That's always a thing with me. If there's a big experience differential, I would just worry about, okay, who are we playing this with? And are they going to end up leaving the table being like, wow, I should not play games. I didn't know what was happening.
Right. That is not a good feeling.
You don't want them to feel that, right? Yeah. You don't want anybody walking away thinking that. So.
Yeah. And like, I just always end up feeling like no matter how weak of a player I feel like I am at these games, like I feel like there's hope.
Right.
And that's what excites me. And I'm like, I can try to figure something out. And then, you have some moments. But I just love Age of Innovation and I love Gaia Project so much too. I kind of rediscovered that this year.
For sure.
Well, great. I think we both had great lists because like literally almost all of your games except Hollyoak, which I didn't even realize was out, were honorable mentions for me. And I haven't tried La Familia yet either, but the other ones were definitely honorable mentions. And if you want, we can just like kind of mention briefly our honorable mentions. We don't need to like go into what they're about, but just shoot them off. So go ahead, you go first.
Sure. So Nucleum is one of my honorable mentions. I was in for this when I found out that David Terzi co-designed this with Simone Luciani. And when I heard that it was coming out from Board and Dice and that he said that it was inspired by Brass and Barrage, I was like, oh, I have to play this, right?
Sold.
Brass and Barrage, I knew I was going to like it. So
I'm just going to chime in real quick too and say that Nucleum is for sure on my honorable mention list as well.
Yeah. So
it's
a Nucleum. It's an industrial revolution of Nucleum with a big backstory about some sci-fi royal city. That doesn't matter too much. You're just making Nucleum and that's what you're going about in this. It definitely, I could see where the influence came from Brass and Barrage, but I wouldn't say it replaces either of those for me. It was
it's a little different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I like to see games influenced by other games, and I love checking out anything by David Terzi. But that's Nucleum.
Yeah, the only reason it's probably not on my list right now is just because I played it way earlier this year with David Terzi, and I haven't gotten a chance to play it since it's actually been out.
Right.
But that's another one that I'll be fixing soon. I think I have a copy on the way.
Good.
From Board and Dice. So yeah, and I know they have the Australia expansion coming for it. So I'm definitely looking forward to revisiting it. I was very impressed when I played it back in April, and I knew I was like, this is going to be a banger for heavy Euro gamers. But
such a bright game too. It's like not your usual Euro art
color palette. Yeah,
right. Yeah, very bright, very nuclear.
Do you have any other honorable mentions?
Yeah, so Darwin's Journey actually also co-designed with Simone Luciani, but this time with Nestor Mangone from Thundergriff Games. This one, I just adore this theme of this game. So I've always wanted to go to the Galapagos. Like, it sounds amazing to me, like, see all these animals and like how evolution took place. This is just a classic worker placement Euro, but I love what you're doing in the game. So the theme for this is what really makes it for me, because you're discovering disciplines, exploring, writing, gathering knowledge. And I just like that. I like when a game's theme is that immersive, but also when it helps you remember what you're doing and what the actions are. Like, because the theme plays into it, it becomes intuitive of what you're doing. So I really enjoyed that. That just had a really great play of it. So that's another honorable mention for me for Darwin's Journey. Did you have any other honorable mentions, or did I get them?
So we got Nucleum. I mentioned Station Fall is an honorable one for me. Septima is one. I didn't really say it was. I don't think I mentioned it was an honorable mention, but like I really liked. I've only played it once. I need to play it more and just make sure like to see where it kind of fits. But I really enjoyed my initial play of that.
Good.
Hegemony, heck yeah. Horseless Carriage, heck yeah. The only other two that haven't come up yet that I had on my list was Wizard's Cup, which is a game I've talked about before, but it's a new one from the designer of Love Letter. And you want to talk about mind games with this one? It is an auto battler game where you're taking wizard cards, but you get to stack them in whatever order you would like against your opponents, 2 players, by the way. And then you're battling as witches, not witches, wizards now. But the thing is, you'll potentially each game play 3 matches with the same 6 cards. So like after we play one match, let's say you won. Now I know some of the wizards you have in your deck. You know some of the ones that I have. Now we have to reset with the same 6 cards, but possibly put them in whatever, a different order. Mm-hmm. And then we battle again. So you're getting in each other's heads like, oh, I saw Jess had that 9, but if she plays that first, then I might be able to play this and then do such and such. So, because all the cards have effects, it's like so good. And it's another one where I'm so entertained watching other people play it too. Because I'll just like teach 2 people and say, here, you guys play. And I just have a fantastic time watching others play it. And I don't know why I didn't put that on my top 10, but it's so good.
You're convincing yourself. As you
I know. There's just so many great games. And the other one is just Pirates of Maracaibo. I don't know if you played this, the kind of new spin-off of Maracaibo. I only played it with 2 players, but I really enjoyed it. I just think that like I would enjoy it more with probably 3 or 4, and I haven't gotten a chance to play it to see like where it kind of sets in.
That's fair.
So yeah, but I liked it. So
let's see. My last 2 honorable mentions: Arborea. Danny Garcia from Alley Cat Games. Yeah, it's another thematic worker placement Euro, and I've enjoyed playing it. Like the shared resource track, building your personal ecosystem by overlaying terrain cards for the animals of Arborea. It's just like a nice way to spend an afternoon, right? Yeah. So I'd put that in like the cozy game category. That's so hot right now. It's just a nice, fun little.
I love that the way the resources work in that game.
Yeah, it's that's the unique part for me.
Yeah.
And then Across America Fluxx. I said I love Looney Labs. I love the folks there. This is by Andy Looney of Looney Labs, and I work with this publisher. But I also traveled across the United States this summer 10,000 mile road trip with my partner, Edward. We went with my truck and a bed in the back and just went everywhere. All these national parks, landmarks. And so the thing about Across America Fluxx is it has your, for goals, you're collecting these cards and putting them out to get these goals. And it has all these landmarks and national parks. So playing this with my family is just like, it's fun. It brings back memories. It's like, oh, we saw Devil's Tower. Oh, remember when we went to Yosemite? And so it's just that kind of feel where it's like this experience and nostalgia at the same time.
Awesome, Jess. Awesome. Man, I think we could both agree that there were just some really amazing games that came out in 2023. And, we probably, between the two of us, haven't even played some that are like super cool just because it's just like there's so many games and there's only like so little time.
It is. And I mean, I learned about some just as you were going through your list. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to play that. So
the same
secret caveat. I hate Great Western Trail, but now I want to play with you because you like it so much. Maybe I would like it better playing with you. Yeah.
we're going to have to dig into this offline.
Why do you hate it? I don't know. When I gave it another try too, like I was like, all right. Yeah. Maybe it was I'll try again. Nope. Yeah. Every experience I've had playing it was not the worst gaming experience ever. It just wasn't fun.
Not for you.
And I was like,
not for you.
And I don't know exactly why. Like, I know why I don't like Terraforming Mars. That I know. But I don't know why I don't like Great Western Trail.
Interesting.
So, maybe if I play with somebody who loves
obviously no game is for everybody has different things that is very interesting.
And many people love it. I would never tell people. I don't yuck on anybody's yuck. Like, if you love it, enjoy. I just don't know why I don't like it.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, Jess, it's always so great talking to you. Same. And I'm glad we just randomly bumped into each other in the hall at PAX Unplugged. Yes. And I'm looking forward to one day I'm going to make it out to Boston. I promise.
Please do. You are so welcome. We just have the studio sitting here and it would be lovely to have you. So we're giving you the thumbs up.
Awesome. You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at BoardGameGeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@BoardGameGeek.com. Thanks for listening and happy gaming!